You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we'll do anything for the shot in Fab Facts.
Tickets, please have your tickets ready for the randomizer.
and our interview with Richard Harvey reaches its coda.
That's all coming up in Pod 143, Maestro.
Of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello, Richard James.
Hello, Jamie Anderson.
Have you seen over there? There's a chap called Chris Dale. I don't know if you've met him before. He's rather nice and very smart, and he'll be talking later on in the Gerry Anderson podcast.
I am familiar with his work. Doesn't he look well? He's been sunbathing, hasn't he?
He does. It looks like he's been sunbathing for the previous 142 episodes of the podcast. So, Chris,
Yeah.
where have you been all our podcast lives?
Yes.
This is an unusual form of intro, isn't it? We don't normally talk about Chris so soon, but we've done it now.
I think he deserves to be right up front, doesn't he?
Absolutely, yes. As king of the Randomiser General himself, he'll be coming later on to talk about a random Gerry Anderson episode and give you his thoughts and analysis and humorous remarks. But what else can listeners expect, Richard James, from this, the 143rd episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast?
Well, it is the Gerry Anderson podcast, so I should imagine you're looking forward to things Gerry Anderson related. Well, you will not be disappointed, because we've got, as Jamie's just mentioned, Chris Dale's randomiser a little later on. We've got part 3, the final part of Jamie's interview with Richard Harvey, composer and musician. And we've also got some fab facts, of course, from the Gerry Anderson universe, and some newsy news.
Aww.
But perhaps most importantly, if you're a listener to the podcast, we'll be hearing from you. Our lovely Podsterons have been getting in touch at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. They've been writing on our Facebook group and tweeting us, and also commenting on our YouTube videos.
I've seen a few of those, yes.
So I'll be reading some of those out a bit later on too.
Have you got the recent one and about where they, moved to a certain part of the podcast? Did you get that one?
No, I didn't see that.
I'm going to paraphrase now, but
Go on.
They thought, whoever it was, decided they would go on and comment, I always skip to the interview because that's the only interesting bit.
Well, I think that's absolutely fair enough. Well, I had someone very kindly swing by my YouTube channel where I put up a few readings from my various books, under which they'd commented, lacking life. Okay, thanks.
It was probably an autocorrect and they meant loving life. Almost certainly. Does that make you feel any better?
Must be that. Yeah, it does, yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, another reason to love life right here on the Gerry Anderson podcast is this part that's coming up right now, and that part is Fab Facts.
Whoop-de-doo.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
This is Fab Facts, Richard James's absolute favourite part of the show. In fact, we could probably do Fab Facts and then end it if we wanted to end this podcast on a high. Is that right, Richard? I thought so, yeah.
Right.
So I've got a book of Fab Facts. I'm going to flick through it. Around the boy, Richard will shout Fab when I will stop flicking and I will read a Fab Fact from the page where we've stopped. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to skip the first few pages today. Here we go.
Oh, okay. Fab.
It was worth skipping.
Was it?
Richard James, are you a fan of a certain Lady Penelope?
Well, I've played her.
You have, haven't you?
Yes, I've got the wig somewhere.
Gosh, that's I wasn't thinking of that, but you're right.
No, I know.
You playing Lady Penelope is just one of the reasons she has remained so popular.
Right.
But back in the 60s, as her popularity grew, she began to receive more and more attention, not just in the Thunderbirds television series, but she also started posing for publicity shots all over the place.
Did she?
And sometimes those pictures saw her visiting the sets of scenes she'd never even appeared in.
Ah.
So slightly giving away the not the fictional, I almost said non-fictional nature of Thunderbirds there.
Yeah.
For instance, there is a photo on her on the set of the interior of the wrecked monotrain carriage from the episode Brink of Disaster.
Right.
Notable because although she was in that episode, she never set foot on the train.
Oh, cheeky.
It was simply a case of, oh, here's an interesting set, take a picture of Penny on it and we can use it for publicity and merchandising somewhere, how about that? I'm just going to let the dog out. I'm so sorry. He's having a little squeak. You fill in. We can leave this in. I'll be back in. Hang on.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Well, pass me the book then.
Come on, Eric.
Let's have a look. Just flick. Oh, yes. As Lady Penelope's popularity grew, she began to receive more and more attention, visiting sets. For instance, yes, a photo of her set in the interior of the wrecked monarch train carriage. Yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry. I'll pass you back the book. There you go. I'm just just getting up to...
but where we were. Okay.
There you go. You take over. There. Yeah.
Here we go. So, they basically just created some interesting shots for publicity.
Yes.
There was, however, one particular Thunderbirds episode which Lady Penelope did not appear in, but that she visited the set to pose for publicity photos.
Yes.
But she did not escape that set unscathed.
Oh no! What happened?
For some reason, probably because the episode was one of the most ambitious so far in the run, it was decided that they should take photos of Penny on the swamp set from the episode Attack of the Alligators, with two of the dwarf crocodiles who play the alligators.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, you've predicted something there, because needless to say, it did not go too well. Possibly the crocodiles were a little put out by this interloper coming to steal their thunder. They were the guest stars after all, Richard, and you know what that's like, being a guest star and others come to steal the thunder. Or maybe they were just having a bad day, maybe they were hungry, but whatever. They decided to take out their frustrations on poor Lady P. In the resulting carnage, one of the crocs bit off her leg.
No!
So while Penny was hastily extracted from this aborted photo shoot, negotiations had to begin with said crocodile to retrieve the severed limb.
Oh dear.
Christine Glanville, lovely puppeteer and marvellous lady, later remarked that the crocodile's mouth must have been rather sore. He refused to give up his prize.
Did they get it back?
Well, I guess eventually, yes, but I guess her leg was not in the greatest state after all that.
Crikey. I mean, that's quite horrific, really, isn't it? I mean, do any pictures survive of this horrible incident?
I think there's a picture of the immediate before.
Right, but not the immediate after.
No, not the... Well, I guess they said, oh, Doug... It must have been Doug Luke doing the photos, I guess. Doug, stop taking photographs. Yeah, he's got a leg. Oh, it's come off. Oh, no.
Is there a doctor in the house?
Yeah, so quite the disaster there.
Gosh. Yeah.
I'm sure I've heard of puppets being, set on fire and damaged by explosive bits and pieces and that sort of thing, but I think Penny takes the biscuit when it comes to, limb removal.
You would think that would be one of the hazards of the job, wouldn't you, really? I'm sure there were, tears of uniforms and heads popping off and eyes falling out. I mean, much like any studio set in the country, really, at any given moment.
I was going to say, did you suffer from head falling off or eyes popping out at any point? I know you suffered from exploding bottom, didn't you?
Indeed I did, yeah. I can't think of anything else. We used to have the odd sort of touch-up of paint and so on if we'd scuffed a hand or a mask against a bit of the set. I don't remember things falling off or falling out, though, thankfully.
No, these animatronic heads were built pretty well, weren't they? Built to last.
They really were. Yes, exactly. So. Yeah, that's right.
There you go. Well, gosh, that's quite the fact for today, I think.
Isn't it just?
That distressing vision of a legless Penny brings us to the end of this week's Leg Fact!
Oh, there we are. Oh, poor Lady Penelope, that's terrible.
I know.
We must send flowers. Now, okay. Shortly before...
You do that. I'm just going to let the dog back in now.
What's going on now? Right. Now, Jamie, while you're doing that, I'll tell our lovely listeners that over on our Facebook page, that's facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, I popped over there just a couple of hours ago and told our lovely Podsterons that we would indeed be recording a couple of podcasts today, and did they have anything that they would like me to ask or tell Jamie? So... I do have a few here, so as soon as Jamie's back into position...
I'm back, so I can't get the dog in.
These upon you. Oh, is this going to be a running theme?
I think it might be. He won't come in.
Jamie.
Yes.
Questions from our Podsterons.
Oh, yes, good.
It's Ask Jamie time. Jonathan Westall, for example, said, will we be able to pre-order the Captain Blue and Captain Black Big Chief Studios figures from the Gerry Anderson store this year?
Yes, in due course. What we've decided to do is that because Big Chief tend to have a few delays, or have in the past had some delays, which I think people find rather frustrating. We're not putting them up for pre-order until we know they're on the way from the factory in China. Because then we've got a more definitive timeline. People don't get stressed out and annoyed by it. So that's the plan for us.
Good. Hugh Morn says, do you have a favourite example of Derek Medding's contributions to film and television outside of Anderson Productions?
Gosh.
Or...
I'm not sure, actually. I guess probably one of the Bond sequences.
Absolutely.
But I couldn't say which one. I'm afraid my Bond stuff is not encyclopedic enough, but I've definitely seen...
Well,
maybe they'll... did Derek do the underwater stuff?
I don't know about that.
Where the car goes underwater.
Oh, well, that's quite... Yeah, you're talking Roger Moore and Spy Love Me, aren't you, with the Lotus Esprit car?
Yeah, I don't know.
Subaquatic.
Someone will definitely correct me.
I mean, for me, it would be... is it Diamonds Are Forever when the outer space capsule is captured by the rockets with the sort of pincers? Do you remember that sequence?
No, sorry. It's terrible that I'm so rubbish on Bond. I must catch up.
Yeah, well.
AC and Chris will be very cross with me. And Terry. Everybody's going to be cross with me. I'm so sorry.
Ivan says, who would win in a fight for Mars, Zelda or the Mistrons? And could we ever see a show with that as the premise? And is it true that you have a secret tattoo of Joe 90? Zelda meeting the Mistrons, that's quite good, isn't it?
Well, I mean, who would win?
Yeah,
quite. I don't know. But I definitely do not have a tattoo of Joe 90. I have no tattoos. Do you have any tattoos, Richard James?
I don't have any tattoos, no.
Oh,
not that I'm prepared to tell you about, anyway. Pam March says, how old was Jamie when he took an interest in his father's work?
Oh, very young indeed. I mean, 2-3 years old. I mean, when I was a kid, he had the original kind of wood masters for Hudson from Terrahawks and the Cube from Terrahawks.
Oh, wood masters?
Yeah, they were carved.
Right.
I don't know why, rather than sculpted. So I'm not sure why they were wood masters, but they were beautiful things. It's a shame we got rid of them. But I just remember constantly flipping the cube round on the carpet and playing around when I must have been 3, I guess. I mean, that's about as early as you get memories. So yes, very early days. Yeah,
do you remember, my earliest TV memory is not Gerry Anderson related. It is, of course, Doctor Who related.
Of course.
I remember a particular sequence in The Green Death with John Pertwee chasing the, I think it was a huge bee around a Welsh quarry.
Is it a bee?
Wasp. It's a wasp, I think.
Wasp, isn't it? Yeah.
Dragonfly? I don't know. Yeah. Peter Littman says, one thing I've always wanted to know, at the end of Terrahawks it says additional music by Gerry Anderson and Christopher Burr, presumably meaning the incidental music featured in each episode. How musical was Gerry? Did he actually play any instruments, or was it that he had a hand in writing it and the other musicians played it?
So I'm not absolutely sure over the technicalities of this, but I have a feeling there was a bit of a kind of music publishing deal to make sure that Dad and Christopher and Richard would all benefit further down the line from the music side, which I think was lovely Tony Pryor, who was at Telstar and ATV and various other companies, who wanted to make sure he was looked after. Dad was not terribly musical. He had ideas for the sort of stuff that he liked, and he would often refer to... there's a bit in Ravel's Bolero. It is Ravel, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Anyway, where this happens, and I want it kind of to have that sort of feeling. And he'd ask for more percussion, more kind of pace, or that sort of thing, but not any kind of specific musical theory as such. He certainly didn't play any instrument.
Yeah. And finally, for now, Alex Parr says, did Jamie have a good birthday, and how much did he eat? Well, I think we can all imagine.
I ate quite a lot.
Really?
But, as you know, Richard, I unfortunately had a migraine on my birthday.
Yeah, so, that's right.
I ended up just basically lying down, motionless, feeling terribly sick, and not actually eating very much at all. So, I know. Don't worry, I've made up for his sins.
I'm sure you have. So there we are, all for now, but I've got lots of emails and tweets and Facebook posts to read out a bit later on.
I, for one, cannot wait for those things.
Good. Because they're coming anyway.
Oh, that's true. Whether we like it or not, they're happening. Very much like the Gerry Anderson news.
Oh, yes.
It is...
Newsy news.
From the world of Gerry Anderson. Thank you very much, Richard James. Let's start off with a journey to the far side of the sun, better known to us as Doppelganger.
Yes.
A brand new Blu-ray and DVD release of Doppelganger are coming out on I think the 22nd of this month, but are available now to pre-order. Lovely fancy new reversible sleeve cover art and all good stuff, which I'm sure everyone will enjoy. And they've not been available for a while, actually, so if you didn't manage to get a version of the previous edition, then you might as well grab this one. And the Blu-ray looks particularly lovely.
Do you get two discs? One is being a mirror image of the other, perhaps?
Yeah, you've got a really annoying one where actually you flip it over and it's just got the reverse of the on-body design, and there's actually nothing playable at all.
It's an idea.
I think the Blu-ray might be a 2-disc release, but I'm not sure. But do pop along to shop.gerryanderson.co.uk and find it there. Now, we mentioned last week, I think, Gerry Anderson Day, didn't we?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure we did. Yes,
a little.
So that's all rather exciting. Now, I can't let you in on anything specific just yet, but we will soon be starting to announce activities with partners. There's other companies who are doing rather cool things for Gerry Anderson Day, possibly some celebrity involvement.
Okay.
And
exciting.
I'm also hoping we'll be able to make a rather fun announcement around the day, or possibly on the day, about a little project that's ongoing, and I think you'll be rather pleased about. That's nice and cryptic, isn't it?
Yes.
Let's leave that there.
Great.
Thunderbird 6 and Thunderbirds Are Go fans, the two Thunderbirds films, after many requests, we finally got those two films' logos on a t-shirt. So if you would like a TB6 or TBAG logo t-shirt, then they are available, I think, for pre-order. In fact, to just order, like, normally.
Yeah. Right, good.
From sometime this week, I guess Wednesday or Thursday. A reminder, if you've bought yourself the Space 1999 Special Edition CD set from the Gerry Anderson store, we are still waiting for delivery at the warehouse, but don't forget, if you've bought it and you would like the instantly downloadable version from bigfinish.com, then make sure you've got a bigfinish.com account. Email your Gerry Anderson store order number to inquiries@bigfinish.com and they will add it to your account. FOC, that's free of charge.
Great.
Space 1999 fans will also be pleased to know that the Metamorphosis of 1999, which is one of Chris Dale's rather marvellous videos, is out this coming weekend.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, I thought the premiere was last weekend, but I messed
wrong.
up the timing, as often happens, unfortunately, with my brain. But it's a great video, and I think I mentioned there's a line at the end which will have you in stitches. So don't skip ahead, though. Watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Are you watching Thunderbirds in 4:3 and HD on BritBox UK, Richard James? I bet you've been watching it non-stop.
Okay, let's say that.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear
let's
it.
go with that, yeah.
Anyway, I know lots of you have been enjoying it because in the UK it's been really difficult to see it in its original aspect ratio and high definition with its original soundtrack. Almost impossible unless you bought the American or the Japanese Blu-rays. So it's great that it's there and so easily accessible. Are you watching it? Are you enjoying it? What else would you like to see on BritBox? Let us know. podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and we will pass on your suggestions to the lovely team at BritBox. And finally, from me at least, if you are a Barry Gray fan, then lovely Ralph from the Barry Gray archive has emailed to say that Théo de Klerk has been working hard to keep the Barry Gray discography up to date. And if you would like to see everything that's been out ever from the worlds of Barry Gray, then go to barrygray.co.uk and you can download the discography there and see all the amazing releases. There's pages and pages of them.
Gosh, I bet there is a whole career's worth.
A career's worth, and then all the re-releases and the most recent soundtracks for each show, and it's quite some list.
Yeah.
There you go. So from me at least, that's the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Nothing from me news. Well, I've got nothing to say. Nothing's happened.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, just been staying at home working.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Now, people have been getting in touch, as you might well imagine, by emailing us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, for example. Pen Quiller said, "Hi, Jamie and Richard. Read your comments in this week's podcast, number 140, about episodes of Gerry Anderson's series based on real-life events. The Thunderbirds episode, Desperate Intruder, features an ancient temple submerged in a lake in the middle of a desert, if you remember that one. As a child in the 1960s, I just enjoyed the episode for itself, apart from the bit when poor Brains was buried in the sand.
Yeah.
Now, as an adult, says Penn, I wonder if the story was inspired by the work that was going on in the early 1960s in Egypt to salvage the temples of Abu Simbel to save them from being submerged by the creation of Lake Nasser. Interesting. Could well be.
I have no better suggestion than that, so
No,
let's
quite
say
right.
yes.
Let's say yes. Penn says, really enjoying the podcast, especially the last couple of weeks, listening to the Scottish Troy Tempest. What an amazing life. Keep up the good work. At the moment, says Penn, you're one of the highlights of lockdown living.
Oh,
Sounds like it's quite a precarious position, though. At the moment.
We're neck and neck with being able to stay in your pyjamas all day.
Yeah, quite. Nigel says, hello to you both. Did I hear correctly on Jamie's birthday podcast this week that there exists some audio of Barry Gray recording sessions? Where can I get or buy this? I'd love to hear it.
I think if you just go on YouTube and search for Barry Gray UFO maybe, or Barry Gray UFO sessions, something like that, you can hear him doing a 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they're great. And then him stopping them and saying, no, change it. They're lovely.
He continues, I have a suggestion for the 150th podcast. It should be interviewing Jamie Anderson by someone else, perhaps Wendy Craig or Ross Kemp. Yes, thank you, Nigel.
How about Wendy Craig and Ross Kemp?
He says, really looking forward to getting my inflatable Thunderbird 1 and inflatable chocolate biscuit launch pad out in the swimming pool on holiday this year. Remember that, if we're allowed. Keep up the good work. It's been brilliant listening to all the podcasts, and especially over the last few months. I've taken to listening to it whilst out for my Monday evening run.
Oh, lovely.
Good for you. Yeah, great. Come on, keep up the pace, Nigel. Sarah says, hi, Jamie, Richard and Chris. I just wanted to start by saying a big thank you for making my day.
Oh, it's not often somebody says that.
No, I've just finished listening to Pod 141 and was surprised and thrilled to hear you read out my review at the end.
It was a lovely review, though. So.
It was. She says, I was listening on the bus at the time, and let's just say that I'm pleased I was wearing a mask because it hid the fact that I was sitting by myself with a huge smile on my face. I think I might have got some strange looks otherwise. I was born in the late 80s, says Sarah, so was a perfect age to be introduced to Thunderbirds during the 90s revival, and I adored it. I've enclosed a photo of a 5-year-old me blowing out the candles on a Thunderbird 2 birthday cake that was made for me. Yeah, it's a lovely picture. As a child, I loved Thunderbirds for the characters, vehicles and storylines. I still do, but as an adult, I'm now interested in the behind-the-scenes side of things too. It fascinates me. Now in my 30s and a fan of several other Anderson shows too, I'm making it my mission to watch every series available, even if it means dealing with Torchy.
Well, on your head be it.
Yeah, that one might be a bit of a challenge, though. I'm currently watching Joe 90 for the first time. I'll let you know how that goes. Ha ha, says Sarah. Thanks for all the hard work you put into making the podcast so enjoyable. Yeah, it really is hard work, Sarah, making it enjoyable. It's a treat to listen to, and I love it. Take care and stay safe. Thanks, Sarah, for getting in touch. That's very nice. Jenny Davis says, hi, Richard, Jamie and Chris. In Pod 141, Richard mentioned at the end of the Gerry Anderson Newsy News that he'd be tempted to offer a prize to the listener who could find out which pod he first sang the outgoing end theme to the Gerry Anderson News. Well, Richard, says Jenny, I found it. It was Pod 25 where you first sang, that was the news, but also in Pod 20, you ended the news by singing news. Well,
wow.
There. She's done her research. I must admit, she said, it was quite fun going through the podcast looking for when the end theme was first used, and it took me most of Monday to find it. Loving the podcast each week and hoping all three of you are safe and well. Thanks from Jenny.
Wow, that's pretty serious dedication. So what's Jenny's prize?
Well, I said I was tempted to offer a prize.
Oh,
Jenny.
I see. That's how it works, is it?
That's my get-out clause. Peter got in touch finally to say, hi, Jamie. By now you probably know that Gabriel made an earlier appearance at a Fanderson event that you mentioned. It was at Century 21 in the year 2000. Yes, we were talking about Gabriel. That's Father Unwin's car from Secret Service. You were there, he says, but you were just a baby.
Well, I can't have been a baby in 2000.
No, that's true.
I would have been 14 or 15. But I do have a memory of it being in the car park of the hotel. So, yeah.
Peter says it was a sad time because Stanley Unwin was set to appear and he had a photo ready for him to sign, but sadly he was too ill to attend. That's Peter. Yeah, great. So lovely, always lovely to hear from you, Podsterons. Do get in touch with your comments, reviews, thoughts, anything at all Gerry Anderson related, or probably cake related too, would go down well. And send them in to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk and I'll read them out next time.
What a lovely collection of messages. And such variety as well. Variety of ages and experiences and memories and thoughts. It's what makes the podcast so vibrant, because it's certainly not you and I, Richard.
Speak for yourself.
No, it's the unique combination of our listeners and you, me, and Chrisdale.
It certainly is unique, I'll give you that.
Anyway, the other thing that gives us variety on this podcast is our lovely interviewees. And
Yes,
for
you're
the
right.
Last 2 weeks, you've been listening to the dulcet tones of Richard Harvey, fantastic composer, conductor, musicologist, multi-musician. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Someone who plays lots of instruments.
That'll do, yeah.
Yeah, that. And yes, we've gone through his career and working with Dad. And in this third part, we're touching on later stuff, including the Firestorm theme and how that came about, and Richard's thoughts on all things Anderson and the potential future of Anderson stuff too. So without further ado, here is the man himself for his grand finale. It's Richard Harvey. From your position now, nearly 40 years on from starting work on Terrahawks, how do you feel about that? The whole score and the experience. Do you hear snatches of that material and feel warm and fuzzy about it, or do you look back at it and do you want to paint out the strings?
No. I mean, literally replace the strings. Yeah, had I been given a chance to replace my version of strings with real ones, I probably would have done. No, I look back to it with great affection, and I would have been 29 when I did it, because it came out in 83, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would have been probably 28 when I got the brief, 29 while I was doing it. And, I was thinking, well, I'm well into my career now. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. But actually looking back at it, it was very early on.
Yeah.
And it was, part of the learning process, as it should be. I think everyone's best work happens when they're in their musical adolescence and everything is budding and blooming and hormones are a bit out of control. And, it was in those days. And there's no part of those days that I look back at with any kind of regret or resentment, except some of the clients I had to deal with. But, that doesn't apply where Terrahawks is concerned.
I'm glad to hear it.
I would say obviously, but no. I mean, it was a big team of people, so there might have been one or two in there, but there weren't. No, it was fantastic. And, for me, I mean, it was a year and a half of really solid work. But then when I look at your dad's CV, and you would expect to see 2 years between Supercar and Fireball XL5, 2 years between Fireball XL5 and Stingray.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years gestation for Thunderbirds before that came out with full zeitgeist trumpets blaring. This is it. Yeah. This is what you've all been waiting for. This is the, the culmination and accumulation of everything we've all learned so far. No, it just followed straight on.
Yeah.
Without a day off from Stingray. Yeah. I mean, nobody should ever have to work that hard, but I suppose maybe a lot of it just didn't feel like work to him. But when you think that Supercar to Thunderbirds were all within 5 years, a 5-year period.
It's amazing. You wouldn't get that now.
No. And that's, I mean, I have to say, would I have been able to cope with that? I mean, if I did, I would probably have gone very quickly to the old hotel foyer piano.
It makes,
and I would have said, I'll play here all day for you for free, but I don't want to see my glass empty at any point. That's what 5 years of that level of productivity would have done to me. I'm absolutely sure.
They did that for 15 years, Richard, and that explains
completely extraordinary.
Barry's choice to retire to the Guernsey Lounge.
Well, let's face it, he could afford to retire to anywhere he wanted to. I mean, he did very well out of everything he did for your dad, and better than your dad did. I think probably.
I think you're probably spot on with that. Absolutely.
I mean, I say that because it's obvious that somebody who writes music will, continue to own the copyright or own a share of it, and will carry on earning forever. Or till 70 years after they're pushing up the daisies.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody like your dad, who's arguably got quite a lot more creativity and a huge amount more responsibility for the whole thing, gets a check. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, exactly.
Would sir like to do another one?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, yes.
And I'm sure that Gerry was amply rewarded for his amazing work, but it didn't endure the way that Barry Graves did.
No, you're.
And I know that got to him.
Yeah. I mean, they later on.
I could see it. It came out in many of our conversations. That's why I mentioned it. It's coarse to talk about money, but it came out in many of our conversations that
Yeah, I think I remember when Dad was really down on his luck, kind of late 70s, very early 80s, that he asked if he could borrow some money, and there was a bit of a and it was only like a couple £100 he needed to tide himself over.
Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, I would have, had I been Barry Gray, I would have said, "Yeah, do you want my house as well? Because you're actually very welcome to it."
Well, I'm not judging.
Because thanks to you, I can go and buy another one.
That's true. I'm not judging Barry for it, but I know that caused Dad some real.
No, well, I didn't know that, but that's there's an odd dynamic there, or there would have been an odd dynamic there.
Yeah,
and there's something wrong in that.
Yeah, but it's the way the industry is, so we have to accept.
Yeah.
Now, Richard, I'm aware of time ticking on, so I want to make sure that we cover a bit of all the exciting things you did post Terrahawks, and then touch on Firestorm before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Post Terrahawks, you have gone on to become a highly respected and BAFTA award-winning composer for film and telly, and all sorts of other stuff. Just compositions for their own sake and releases, and
I'm kept busy.
I keep referring to you as Hans Zimmer's right-hand man, or one of his right-hand men. Is that fair? I mean, if you could give me some sort of highlights from post Terrahawks to now.
Well, I mean, in a sense, no, that's not quite right. I mean, he and I bounce off each other from time to time. Yeah. If he heard that I happened to be in LA, he would give me a call and say, "Look, can you come in and do something on this?" Sometimes he calls me and says, "Can you get on a plane?" I don't like getting on planes.
Fair enough.
So I only do it when there's very good reason for it. No, I mean, it's been really nice for the sort of general roundedness of my musical life and career to have been involved in some very big Hollywood productions. I mean, it's not just Hans. I mean, my two former assistants, Harry Gregson Williams and Rupert Gregson Williams, are still Hollywood based and doing very big productions. And, I help them out with stuff from time to time. But movie and TV never was everything for me. And now it's really on the, it's in the margins. I will only do projects that are really close to my heart in some way, because I don't put myself out there. I do have an agent, but I say, look, just if something amazingly suitable comes up, give us a shout. Otherwise, just leave me alone, sort of thing. If I look back at my CV, I think I've got it. Been fortunate enough to have got it just about right, because nothing has changed since I was a 14-year-old, other than the fact that my brain and my body have deteriorated. Otherwise, nothing else has changed. I still try to have a little go at everything.
Yeah.
I do concert music. I play concerts. I conduct. I love mentoring people who are just starting out. I seem to have been more successful at that than I have at mentoring myself over the years. But, when we get going on Firestorm, my semi-retirement will come to a very sudden end.
Yeah, we're going to keep you very busy there.
Sleeves will be rolled up and a lot of coffee will get consumed and we'll go. Yeah, I mean, you asked about Hans. I've worked on a lot of projects with Hans. You need to remember he's younger than me, and we started out at Airedale at the same time. He was doing commercials, I was doing commercials. I started to work on films, and he got more involved in the pop side of things, and then came back into film.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was essentially the in-house synth programmer at Airedale, and I was the in-house, might compose it or might help someone else record their sort of chap. Both very, very young.
Yeah.
And I could never have done what he's done. I mean, he's moved to Los Angeles, built up a huge empire out there. I could never have done that, because once you have that many people around you and so much structure around you, you can't even take a break.
Yeah.
And that's great for Hans, because the last thing he ever wants to do is take a break. So it's perfect for him. But I like to travel the world. I mean, it's getting less easy and less fashionable to do that.
Yes.
But I'm very glad that I did the traveling I did when it was okay to do that. But I've always spent at least 3 months a year traveling. And, that isn't just, for the sheer pleasure of it. I mean, it's made me the musician I am. Seeing musicians, working with musicians, jamming with musicians around the world, collecting instruments, whatever. I mean, I work on a lot of projects that are set in other times and other places. Yeah. And, under those circumstances, I'll say, yeah, actually, I'm the right man for the job. If you want me to do Wonder Woman 4, no, I'm not the right person for that job, because I'll have to do my own thing.
Interesting. Speaking of doing your own thing then, Richard, and you mentioned Firestorm now, so it seems only prudent that we do this.
Yeah.
Why?
Looking forward to that phone call, Jamie.
Yeah, me too. Well, listen to the podcast.
Get those sleeves rolled up, mate, you'll say to me.
Mine are already rolled up, as you can see.
On my winter dress on.
Well, listeners to the podcast know the sort of turbulent time for Firestorm and the difficulty of getting it going, but we are, edging ever closer. But when the idea of this was first mooted to you, what made you say, all right, then, fine, I'll do that, versus Wonder Woman 4 and saying no?
I didn't say, oh, all right, then I'll do that.
All right, fine. Well, what did you say and why?
I said, yeah, I absolutely want to do that. Don't you dare even think about giving that gig to anyone else.
You did. But, was it, another stab at something Anderson? Was it, did you feel like you owed something to Dad? Was it just an exciting project or a mixture of all things? I'm really interested to know.
A couple of things, really. Yeah. First thing is, it's my gig. Right? Yeah. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I think we both admit that there's something retro about Firestorm.
Very much so, yes.
Because you could tackle this in so many different or other ways, but you've chosen not to. Yes, of course, there's CG involved in this, and there has to be. But it's a pretty analog production.
In many ways, it is, yeah.
And I like that because every time I've seen somebody try to improve on Thunderbirds, they've made a complete dog's breakfast of it, as far as I'm concerned. And don't get me started. But
no need to pick over the dog's breakfast. We'll just accept.
No. Okay, but the fault lies elsewhere. Put it that way. And I love the intimacy of that technique.
Yeah.
It's not trying to put what is essentially a puppet show on a Guardians of the Galaxy stage, because I've seen and heard that it's all wrong to have the whole. Even the Thunderbirds music was recorded with a small orchestra in a small studio, and it was in your face. It was tight. It was close.
Yeah.
It was brash, but it was intimate. You suddenly got 70 players on an LA scoring stage, and the whole thing is completely out of proportion sonically to what you're looking at. And so I love the fact that you can sort of get right amongst it. And at that point, people really start to hear in detail what you're doing, and how you're doing it. And that's a challenge, because you do have to come up with new ways of doing things. But the other point I was going to make was, it's the weirdest feeling. When I was learning the clarinet, I used to play the Mozart clarinet concerto. Quite a lot of the time, probably an unhealthily high percentage of my time spent playing the Mozart clarinet concerto, and about 4 or 5 other pieces. And then I gave up the clarinet. And, 40 years on, if I pick up the clarinet and play the Mozart clarinet concerto, I'm totally transported back to being 18 years old. I mean, I wish there were other aspects to that metamorphosis. But, I mean, your musical mindset gets completely transported back. And it's like an elixir of youth. And you think, God, did I really play it like that? That was so unmusical, so brash and so immature of me. And then, oh, that's great. And, the last thing, I'm going to say is that it's nostalgia, it's memory lane. I get warm feelings towards it. I'm looking for quite the opposite. I'm looking for the excitement, the elixir of youth, everything coming back, putting that hat on, baseball cap on backwards, all that.
I could see you in that right now. Yeah.
But, I don't say this about many things, but I think I'm the right guy for the job.
Absolutely.
That's the main reason that I said yes. Obviously the work we've done so far, I know it's a pleasure to work with you, Jamie.
Yeah.
I just look forward to it actually happening for you as much as, for you more than for myself.
Well, for all of us and for the audience too, because it's going to be a great fun ride. No, I had a fantastic time in your studio over those couple of days. Kind of,
it was an absolute blast doing that, and I hope that we achieved some of the kind of energy levels.
Oh yeah, I mean
that we're looking for on that.
There are moments in the creative process where you get those true moments of collaboration where it leaps up a level, and I actually find those moments, that process, quite emotional. It really charges me up, and there's that kind of, I don't know, overwhelming, fuzzy feeling of positivity when minds come together from different areas and something special happens. And there were several moments in that, and I'm not taking any credit for input here, but just the process of being together and working on it, where that happened, where you were making some choices about bringing people in, getting your old synthesizer out, adding lines, adding just bassy growls, getting Rich Craker in to do the guitar line and stuff. And all those moments really lifted it. So I absolutely loved that process, and I can't wait to do it again.
That's what we're all in this for.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Isn't it?
We're
I mean, and you should get that on every level of your work on Firestorm. I mean, for me, it's just the music, but on different projects. But, we're very lucky that we get that from what we do for a living. and not from drugs or something. We get, the everything changing moments
Who needs
in a really good
when
way.
you've got creative collaboration?
How fortunate is that?
No, very lucky indeed. Well, I can't,
Puts us in a very good place.
it absolutely does. I can't wait for more of it. Richard, this has been absolutely fascinating. I've loved talking about it, and I'm, I wish to do this properly with a beer.
Yes.
Microphones in our faces in due course when we're allowed. I'm guessing because of COVID, you're not doing online concerts and stuff. Are you avoiding that kind of?
No, I'm not avoiding it. I just, on one hand, if I was a pianist, I'd probably do online little mini recitals, but I need to play with other musicians. And at the moment, we're so close to having felt our way across a rope bridge where the strings are breaking. Every yard you walk, you're so close to the other side that I think I'm going to leave it till everyone I work with is vaccinated and things look like they're on the mend. Apart from that, there are so many musicians out there who are virtuoso social media operatives, which I'm not. I love to play, but if I'm going to do that and no one's going to watch, I don't think I'll bother very much. I'll wait to get out there and do it for real.
Yeah. Well,
at least I can keep writing in the meantime, and I'm not going to stop doing
exactly.
that.
We can still keep creating without being out there. And I know obviously we are working secret other stuff potentially for hopefully not too distant future, which we'll talk about more in the future when we're allowed to. Is there anywhere that fans can find you or your work online, or any charitable things you would like to plug?
Well, can always go to my Facebook. I've just released an album with Rich Craker, who we touched on recently. You played that wonderful guitar solo on the Firestorm main theme. We've just released a lockdown project that we had our first lockdown. We were both in Thailand at the time, and his dad owns a fantastic recording studio and works out of a fantastic recording studio in Thailand. And we made a start on this album. In the end, I headed back to the UK, so I was in the bizarre position of having booked musicians to play in my studio in London. We were recording them over the internet, and then came back to London, was doing the reverse and recording in Thailand over the internet. But it was a lockdown project, and it's called The Shadow Roads, and it's on Spotify and all other. And there's a link to it on my Facebook page. You touched on charity. That's kind of you. My wife and I have this organization in Thailand called the May Foundation, and we've been supported by a number of my musician friends, including the great guitarist John Williams, not the composer John T. Williams, but the great guitarist John Williams, who's given his time on so many occasions to play at fundraising concerts for us. And our brief in life is to provide musical instruments, books, and teaching services for kids in the refugee camps all along the Thailand-Burma border, because there are a lot of refugees who've been driven out of the country formerly known as Burma. I can hardly bring myself to say its new name, because it was a name that was decided on by the military government without any consultation with the people. But there's really we've given them a load of instruments. We give them ukuleles and flutes and teaching books and whatever, and guitars. But we can't go there at the moment. We can't even get into Thailand, let alone get over to the border, because, even travel within the country is restricted. That's how Thailand has only recorded 9 COVID deaths so far. The country is in complete lockdown. But as soon as we open up, we'll get over there and get that going again. So it's all going on.
Okay, so search for.
I'm not thinking of retiring anytime soon.
I was going to say you can't yet anyway.
No. Well, exactly. That point is well taken.
There you go. Perfect. So the Shadow Roads, which you can get on Spotify and elsewhere. And if people are feeling generous, then the May Foundation. I guess they can find that.
Yeah, there's a website for us. So that's MAE.
Yeah, perfect. Richard, this has been brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And
Look forward to that pint, Jamie.
a pint and a series worth of Firestorm music. Yeah, done. Deal.
Fantastic. Lovely to see you, and see you soon.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you. Lovely Richard Harvey. What a nice man. And I mean, our chat went on for nearly 2 hours, so you're not hearing everything there. And even when it had finished, it carried on some more.
Great.
So it's just so nice. And we're lucky that he's over here because of the pandemic rather than being in Thailand, where he would be normally this time of year.
Yeah.
Anyway, do not forget, please, show your support for the marvellous Richard Harvey by voting for him for the Classic FM Hall of Fame, which you can reach by going to halloffame.classicfm.com/2021. And there's a link in the show notes if you just want to click through there. It'll just take you a couple of seconds. And I know that Barry Gray is also in there.
Ah, yes,
We
of course.
know that. But I would say that, obviously Barry is no longer with us. He's highly respected already and well known. Richard is much lesser known and is still very much around and working. I think it would be a rather nice thing to do to vote for Richard over Barry. You're not saying you prefer one over the other, but I'm just saying that Richard is still here to enjoy this thing of being in the Hall of Fame. So if you would vote for Richard, we'd really appreciate it. Now, next week, Richard, I'm having a break.
Are you?
Not from the podcast, but from interviewing.
Oh, I thought it was all over to me for a week.
No, don't worry. But that also means I'm not going to ask you to interview, nor am I going to ask Chris Dale to do the interview.
What on earth is going on? We've got some sort of interviewer interloper.
Absolutely, that is what we have.
Who is the interviewer interloper?
It sounds like a Joe 90 episode.
It does, yes.
It is. We're going all American next week.
Right.
So next week in Pod 144, you will be hearing from David Hirsch.
Yes.
And David is going to be interviewed by none other than podcast producer Ben Page.
Ah, fantastic. Good old Ben.
So it's totally American. It's all about Ben and David, and it's a great interview. And Ben gets out of David some really fantastic stuff about the early days of meeting Dad and working with him and how that didn't quite work out, and then where David's career went, and all sorts of stuff on Space 1999 and beyond. So it's a really good chat, so you can enjoy part one of that next week.
Oh, well done, Ben. I look forward to that. Now, over on our Facebook group, facebook.com... I'm not going to say it again. I've already said it, and people know it, don't they? Now, Louise has been posting part one of an interview with Gerry Anderson that she found on YouTube. People have also been having lots of fun with the recent NASA Perseverance landing on Mars, as you could imagine, with lots of intimations of the Mysterons having got there first and so on.
Of course.
Alex Patrick also posted. So when are we going to talk about how next week's podcast lands on International Women's Day? Didn't know that.
Oh, that's this week's podcast.
There you go. Yes, he posted last week. Dave Muddy responded, by and large, Gerry's shows do a decent job of celebrating female characters. One thing I enjoy about the Anderson body of work is seeing how quickly the role of women evolves in a positive way over such a short space of time. From Venus not understanding handbrakes and Marina being the perfect woman because she's silent, to Lady Penelope being a cool super spy and the Angels being badass in under 5 years.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good take, isn't it?
Always trying to address that balance and push things right through to the end with new Captain Scarlet and Lieutenant Green becoming a woman and
quite right.
Captain Oka.
Yeah.
Just, going for representation there.
And I've got to stick up for Officer Castle in Space Precinct as well. It was,
100%.
Absolutely part of the action and right in there.
And that was after the 90s.
Quite. Alex Pass says the audiobook reading of Shane Rimmer's autobiography, read by the late legend himself, is currently $2.99 for download in the Big Finish World Book Day sale. So I'm not sure how long that'll be, but it's probably worth a look. World Book Day was only a few days ago, so it might still be on sale there at Big Finish. Joanne Bennett says you're a very naughty boy, Richard James. Well,
I agree.
She says, after receiving your recent newsletter, I do have my own newsletter, Jamie. Sorry about that.
I'm aware. I know.
Yeah, she said, I went to the Gerry Anderson store following the link that I provided to look at First Action Bureau audio, and look what happened. And she posted a picture of the FAB box set and also Breakaway from Space 1999. She says they just jumped into my basket all by themselves.
Very odd. I've literally got those two boxes right in front of me. You can't see them, but...
No, they're there. We can hear them.
Yeah, they're both
definitely.
here. How strange.
There you go. She says, Richard, I'm holding you personally responsible for this if my other half asks what I've been ordering this time. Honestly, though, I can't wait for them to arrive, and I'm also super excited that the Anderpoints are back too. Are they now?
Yes, they've been back for a while, actually.
Okay,
but yes, you get loyalty points for shopping at the Gerry Anderson store, obviously.
Good. Ralph says, has the Secret Service vanished off BritBox UK? It was there yesterday, but not today.
Oh, I don't think so. They may have done a re-upload or something to deal with some errors, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's still there.
And finally, for now, Tom Hodden said, name the greatest act of bravery in Super Mario Nation. He suggests every time Mitch travels in Supercar, but we don't see him in the car. Either somebody put him in the boot, or he's clinging on the outside. I'm guessing there are deleted scenes where some brave soul has to try and slip Mitch a drugged burger, Mr. T style. From the A-team there. CJ List responded, Captain Scarlet, what that man has to go through every time he regenerates should earn him some recognition as an act of bravery.
I agree.
Nicholas Vaughan suggested Chris Dale watching Torchy again.
That may be the best suggestion so far.
Absolutely. Well, you say that. Matty Kescavari came up with my favourite. Every time Richard has to endure Fab Facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is an act of courage.
Thanks.
Right
Yeah.
there,
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. All for now, but do pop along. Facebook.com/groups/Podsterons. There, I've said it, and you can join in the fun.
Thank you for saying it. Now people all know where it is, because there's no way they could have found it before now.
No.
As we know from that group and elsewhere, one of our listeners' favourite parts of this podcast, other than the end, is the Randomiser.
Ah, yes.
Hosted by the beautifully tanned Chris Dale.
Doesn't he look svelte, doesn't
I don't
he?
know
He's been
how,
working out as well.
Chris,
Look at him.
I mean, we've been in lockdown, Chris. He must have bought a sunbed.
He's very buff, isn't he?
Yeah, or he's been working at the, the coal face, essentially, of the Moonbase Alpha nuclear reactor.
That'll be it. That'll be it.
Yeah,
yes.
he is. Actually, when you look at, he's looking a bit like Ian McShane in that episode. Where he's got a little bit too crispy. So, and now his eyes are glowing. All right, Chris, over to you for the Randomiser.
Wow.
Sorry.
So is this it, Marina? You sure? Oh, okay, right, put him through. VLAN. I should have known. So what kept you?
You expected my call.
Well, who else would be crazy enough to want to steal the Randomiser? Especially with all that Torchy still in there. You have got it, haven't you?
That's it. Exactly. Think about it.
Alright, slobface, so what's the game plan?
Let me tell you how I see the situation.
I don't need to be told about it, it's pretty obvious. I'm guessing this is your subtle little way of asking to press the button this week.
To prevent any further unpleasantness, we're both rational men.
You speak for yourself. VLAN, honey, I am more than happy to let you press that big red button today.
You surprise me. You may live to regret your decision.
Oh, I doubt that somehow. I'm sure your selection will be completely above board.
Quit stalling.
Are you stalling? You're the one with the printout. You tell me what I'm watching today.
The train is out of control. Think about it.
Train. Oh, you're holding up the printout, thank you. Ah, yes, I see. Yes, we are catching a train with Stanley Unwin.
He's indeed a ferocious hound.
Oh, absolutely. It's the Secret Service. Last train to Buffalo's Halt.
Yeah, how do you like them apples?
Shut up.
And here we are, back for our 4th episode, I believe, of the Secret Service out of 13. We're hope we're not going to run out of these anytime soon, because I'd like to keep the Secret Service going throughout the life of the Randomiser.
Shipment for you to come along, Mr. Reed.
We've got another 8 years or so of this yet.
How far are we from Cranford?
We'll be there in about 15 minutes.
We're riding in a armoured van, and oh yes, this is the episode with the lovely music, which is probably more famous for being in a UFO, The Sound of Silence. But anyway, the security van is now being followed by a car. And this is all live action, by the way, aside from the puppets. Again, shot day for night, which never looks all that convincing, but...
That car behind. I think it's following us.
I believe that's somewhere around Burnham Beaches. Could well be the very same place that the... Carlins saw that UFO at the other day. It's a similarly wooded area.
It's still with us. Can't we go any faster?
I'm flat out now, sir.
Oh, and there's another car waiting for them. Being signalled to by a puppet in the studio. Yeah. Well, signalling back, so you got the message, obviously. 193ELO. This is the Jason Smith puppet from Captain Scarlet that's doing the signalling. The other car has parked itself across the road in front of the security van. I stumbled there because it says Securicore on the front. I wasn't sure which to go with.
Pull up! No, sir. It looks like an ambush.
Brake, man, brake!
Yeah, most of the time in genre shows, if there's an armoured van being driven somewhere, the driver will always get killed, the baddies will always get away with the van. But this time,
Are you all right, Mr. Reed?
the driver just put his foot down and went straight through.
I'm fine.
Well, we showed them all right, Mr. Reed. They couldn't stop us.
You certainly did, McGraw. You certainly did.
Well done, McGraw. But Mr. Reed doesn't seem too happy that his shipment didn't get stolen. I wonder what that's all about. So we're back from the opening titles, and it's straight off to the vicarage. Last train to Buffalo's Halt.
Are you ready, Matthew? Ready.
Here we go, opening the Minimizer book. And I always wonder what people who saw any other episode than the first episode would make of this shrinking sequence. If you know nothing about the show and someone just puts on this episode for you. Because the Securicore van sequence was exciting and well directed and all that, and then you come back from the opening titles. The opening titles of the show established nothing other than a vicar and a vicarage, and then they just throw the shrink ray at you. Anyway, Father Unwin and Matthew are now off to Whitehall. Got a meeting with the Bishop.
Yes. One of my best operatives is at this very moment on his way to my office. I can assure you he will be here just as fast as the marvels of modern transportation will allow.
Of course, he's chugging along in Gabriel. I rather like that the Bishop is, equally on board with Father Unwin's eccentricities.
We're making excellent progress, Matthew.
We certainly are.
The mind boggles when you remember not so long ago the law demanded that
A motor vehicle be preceded by a man with a red flag. Yes, Father.
and nowadays speeds of 40 and even 50 are commonplace.
As you say, Father, the mind boggles.
Yes, because this is what we tune into a Gerry Anderson show to see. Vehicles that can reach almost 50 miles an hour. You know, on a good day. But it's sweet and charming when Unwin says it with such enthusiasm that it's almost infectious. Anyway, we're actually parked at Whitehall. Gone over the bridge. Some nice location filming here.
That will be all, Blake. Have that report ready for me in the morning.
Yes, sir.
Oh yes, this is another episode that features Captain Scarlet as Agent Blake.
You can come in now.
And it's obvious from that Blake doesn't know anything about the whole Father Unwin Minimizer Matthew setup.
Father Unwin and Matthew, please come in and sit down.
Thank you.
Which makes me wonder, and I may have mentioned this before during the randomizer for a question of miracles.
Job in hand immediately.
If
we quite understand.
Blake doesn't know anything about Father Unwin, but he's a Bishop agent. British Intelligence Service Headquarters Operation Priest. What does he think the Operation Priest part of that entails?
Made to hijack an official security truck.
What was the truck carrying?
Oh, I like that shot of Matthew sat on real books.
Of used banknotes.
Yes, I'm very vague as to what Blake actually thinks he does and who he thinks he works for.
The money is at present in a vault at...
Maybe they've told him it stands for Operation...
London tomorrow.
Pudding or something.
No, by train. Non-stop express. And as I feel certain the hijackers will try again, I'd like you, Father Unwin, to be on that train.
What about me?
As usual, my dear Matthew, you will be in your case.
And here we go with some lovely model work. We didn't get all that many railway episodes. Oh, there's that Fire 98 saved from London Plain newspaper again. As we meet the old station master. Is it Albert?
Just leave the talking to me.
Albert Hobson? I think that's his name.
Who can that be at this time of night?
Who stayed on after the station's been shut down.
Is it?
My name's Callow from the Railways Board. Albert Hobson.
That's right.
I am authorised to inform you this station is to be reopened.
What?
The first train will arrive here 900 hours tomorrow morning.
And Albert is anew the produced puppet for the Secret Service. We hadn't seen him in Scarlet or Joe. But yes, we've got... as I was going on about a few moments ago, we didn't have too many railway-based episodes in the Anderson shows. 1 or 2 per series, if that. Mostly with the Super Marionation shows, it was like the monorail.
All right.
On Brink of Disaster and Perils of Penelope and stuff like that.
Excuse me, gentlemen. This is the train for London, is it not?
But here we have a real 1969 era vintage train.
I don't expect the usual comforts.
And it's such a refreshing change of pace from all the usual high-tech stuff.
Will you be allowed aboard?
Not even under these circumstances?
I don't understand. How did you get this authorization?
I was given it by the bishop.
There's something very quaint and reassuring and a bit Thomas the Tank Engine about some of the model shots we see here.
Going. And good luck.
Which is appropriate considering, some of the people who actually worked on Thomas. Anyway.
Care for a game yourself, Father?
No. But try to keep the stakes in moderation.
We were thinking of playing for matchsticks.
Well, in that case, it may help to pass the time.
I like that. Wholesome banter as the guards and Father Unwin who are all guarding the... what is this they're protecting here? Money or bullion? I've forgotten.
She's just passed. Right on schedule.
The train has just passed checkpoint 4, sir.
There he is. There's Scarlet. And Captain Oka was another bishop agent there reporting in from
points every 10 miles.
A signal box.
Should be safe now, sir.
Thank you, Joan. Out.
This is all official, is it, sir?
My dear Albert, I thought you'd be glad to have a train back at Buffalo's Holt.
Well, I am, sir. But there hasn't been a train up for over 4 years.
Well, one's coming now.
Yes, although I don't think we see any other...
Your turn, Father.
Well,
engines or locomotives aside from the one that Father Unwin is on here. We do get some nice rolling stock and railway buildings as it races along.
That. Neither of the guards have got the ace.
I wish you wouldn't inform me of the handy deal, Matthew, and folly for your eyeball.
But that's nice, Matthew sneaking a look at the...
Well, I happen to know that neither of you have an ace in your hand.
Well, that's right.
The railway guards' cards.
Well, let's say a little voice told me. We'll have to start again. And keeply quiet load this time, Matthew, if you won't. Your deal, I think.
So, all is well. The train is on course. Some lovely shots of it speeding through the countryside.
Safely through checkpoint 6. Very satisfactory.
Oh, that's not quite the same as most satisfactory. I wonder if they were tempted with this episode to not go with models for the engine and just do entirely live action shots like they're doing with the cars here, but I suppose that's a bit more difficult to control. Oh no, there is another locomotive. Passing by another signal box.
Well, I'm afraid you're not allowed in here, lady.
This usually makes people change their mind.
Oh dear.
Hey, what are you doing? What do you want?
There's a train due through here in 8 minutes. I want it stopped in Blackmore Tunnel.
Oh, but that's impossible.
Do it.
Yeah, Bishop didn't think to put an agent in this signal box. Oh dear. Is it being diverted?
Jackie, out. This is the station to leader. The train will stop in Blackmore Tunnel, as planned.
Oh, and who's this waiting in the tunnel to meet the train? It's naughty old Mr. Reed. Waiting at the points. And very often with the model vehicles and indeed model puppet scenes, by this point in the Super Marionation era, you know that they've done enough that they can put together a casino or an airfield in their sleep. But because they haven't done anything like a real-world railway before, I suppose aside from Four Feather Falls, but that was a long time before this, they've produced a lot of stuff for this episode in terms of the rolling stock, the locomotives, the railway lines, and it all looks lovely. Anyway, Reed has now taken over the train. Got the driver bound and gagged.
Are you certain? Yes. Yes. All right.
Well?
Well, sir.
Oh, dear.
It appears that the train has vanished.
Vanished?
Yes, sir. It started to slow down, entered the Blackmore Tunnel, and, it didn't come out the other end.
Ba-bum. That sounds like a line from Thomas, actually.
Your temper, sir. I just want to...
Lose my temper, Blake? Why should I do that?
Well, sir, you...
The hijackers may find the contents of that train more than they bargained for.
I like that Blake is expecting to get a telling off that never actually comes. I suppose, having been Scarlet, having worked for Colonel White so long, and having to put up with his, shall we say, erratic temperament, he's probably a bit surprised when people are like, no, it's fine. We just lost all that money. It's not a problem.
Yes. The situation is very clear to me. Yes, I understand. Goodbye. Well, gentlemen, it would appear the train has been hijacked.
I knew it. I could tell from the...
I also love how casual Stanley Unwin delivers lines like that.
I knew this had to come, Mr. Kello. I knew the Railways Board wouldn't forget Buffler's hope.
Yes, Hobson. The train will be here any minute. Now remember, just do exactly as you are told.
You can rely on me, Mr. Kello.
And this Albert Hobson character is lovely. Aside from the look of the character, which is quite sweet, now he's properly dressed up in his old railway uniform. And there were people around this time who were, keeping the flag flying for the old steam engines, the old railways.
It's on its way.
So it's quite sad that he's just being used by the baddies to...
Right, Joe. As soon as they open the door, let them have it.
As part of their plot.
Please. I'm sure they will have firearms. Let us avoid violence. Allow me to handle the situation. Good morning.
Who's this, Reed?
I'd forgotten about him.
Ah, Mr. Reed. You're looking a little peaky today. But then you have a lot on your mind. I never suspected that you were the inside man, as they say.
All right. Take them all into the station and tie them up.
All change! All change!
And get that imbecile Hobson in there.
Oh, poor old Albert. Trying to carry on, despite the fact that it's clearly not a normal situation he's been thrown into here.
That should do it. And where's the truck?
It'll be here in 5 minutes.
So now Unwin, the 2 guards and the driver have been tied up and put in Hobson's cottage.
Rely on me, Mr. Callow.
Albert.
Hobson's the name. Mr. Hobson.
Ah, yes. Well, Mr. Hobson...
You just sit quiet. The railway police will take care of the likes of you.
Quite so. You obviously have the good of the railway at heart.
55 years. Never missed a day.
Exactly. But I must explain, you are a victim of deception.
Deception?
This is where I think the Secret Service works really well. This, slightly old-fashioned vicar in a slightly old-fashioned world of, steam engines and car enthusiasts.
Fine by.
Exactly. One of the highest in the land.
Oh, all right, Father.
Possibly if the series had been more like this and perhaps actually less of the high-tech and secret bases than the little was there.
From these bonds, if you will.
I don't know, maybe that would have been something, or I don't know how far you could have
right.
Pursued that.
Men and the truck are a mile down the road.
Perfect.
It's a very odd show, the Secret Service. I don't know if any of you ever thought of that, but it's quite odd.
Diversion while I lock the security carriage door.
I'll see what I can do.
Now, Mr. Hobson, can you drive this train?
After 55 years' service, it'll be an honour, sir.
Good. Excellent, Albert.
And I do like that Unwin has convinced Albert to join them, not through force or anything, but just through words.
Read.
And this is fun too.
What's that?
Read.
Gary Files having fun.
Over here. Read.
Read. Yeah, you wouldn't know he was a highly trained secret agent.
Must be a tape recorder. Prise the lock open.
But it's lured all the baddies into the train.
It must be that old fool Hobson. You should have tied him up with the others.
Ah, Albert. We must be on our way before the rest of the gang arrive.
Right, sir.
Otherwise they might duff us up. And that's it. The train is underway from Buffalo's Halt. And the other crooks have arrived too late to meet it. I don't think we know who's on that van.
Get that door open. Stop this train.
We are locked in the security carriage. Get to the level crossing and stop this train.
Yep, so the van is now off to the level crossing. Again, we don't know who's in there. I don't think we see who it is. It's all done with models. But I like that we see the, even though there's a jump cut between them, I like that we see the van and the engine on the same model set.
Full speed, Albert. Right you are, sir.
Oh, will the van get to the level crossing in time? Why does the level crossing have no barriers? No, they missed it. Train's gone through.
Well done, Albert. I think we can reduce speed.
Well, that's just it.
Uh-oh.
You see, I never handled one of these newfangled devices. How do you stop it?
And a rare example of the wah-wah music in the Secret Service, which I don't know how other people feel about the wah-wah, but I was never a fan of that. But the train is now out of control, coming back the way it came. And now we're on stock footage of a real railway.
It seems we are on the main line, heading for London.
Main line, eh? Well...
I love that he's more impressed with the thought of it than the idea that he could potentially be heading for disaster in a very serious accident.
Matthew, I understand the situation. The forces of law and order will close in.
And I'll have a word with the Fat Controller. I'm not sure what's happened to either Jackie, the female baddie, or the two guards and the original driver. They don't seem to be anywhere anymore. We might have left them at Hobson's house.
I wish you would find out, Bishop, and reasonably quickly.
After all, we are on the main line.
Leave it to me.
This is fun. Despite the fact, again, its stock footage isn't quite matching up with the model side of things.
Never thought I'd get on the main line.
This is probably one of the most entertaining climaxes of a Secret Service episode, partly because the stakes are potentially so high. It could be a very nasty accident, but also Father Owen and Hobson are just, they're not too bothered. I think everybody's forgotten about the whole money thing by this point.
Simple as that. Right. Goodbye. My dear Albert, to stop, you simply take your hands off the controls. I just hope we haven't left it too late.
That seems to work. Okay. Yeah, here we go. A whole railway yard of moving trains and rolling stock and sidings and signal boxes. All for that one scene. I don't think... I'd be very surprised if any of that stuff had appeared in previous episodes. Anyway, the train is safe.
Well, Matthew, I think this is a slower but a much safer speed to travel.
And all aboard are well.
More, Father. 2 inches from the end of the line was cutting it a bit fine.
It certainly was, Matthew. It certainly was.
That's it. They're off back to the vicarage after another successful mission. So that was Last Train to Buffalo's Halt. And when I think of the Secret Service and times that it really worked, I think this is one of my favourites from the series. It's such a simple idea for a story, just protecting this shipment of money. But because it's taking place on this method of transportation, the railway, that we've really never seen before in an Anderson show, it feels very fresh and very different. And coupled with the rather lovely Albert Hobson character, who I'm sure would probably be far more familiar to viewers of the time than perhaps he is today. To be honest, I'm not up to date on the latest doings on the old steam railway scene, but yes, back in the 60s, I'm sure this was a character who would have been familiar to certain people. The silly old duffer clinging to the good old days, and he gets one last chance to to relive those days again and actually take the controls of a train, which is rather sweet. So, not the finest episode of the Secret Service, but it's pretty high up there. Number 2 or number 3 favourite, I would say. Yep, really enjoyed. Another trip on the railway.
Interestingly, I find myself having to say the title of this episode in a northern accent.
Oh, let's hear it.
I don't know what. No, I'm not going to do it. I want to
do you call Alan Bennett, do you?
The last train to Buffalo's Halt.
Oh.
I don't know why.
There you go.
It just feels like it needs it. Anyway,
you're right.
Lovely bit of Secret Service there. And Ralph, if you were unable to find Secret Service on BritBox, there you go. You've got your dose right here on the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Yeah, that's
Thanks,
nice,
Chris.
isn't it? Now, just before we go, because I sense in your voice, Jamie, that it's wrapping up time.
Oh, well, it's actually because I need a pee, but yeah, it is.
Right. Well, people have been getting in touch on Twitter as well. They've been hashtagging us Gerry Anderson Podcast, tagging me, Richard N. James, him, I'm Jamie Anderson, and him over there. He's peeling bits of skin off his face. Oh, that's awful. Chris Dalek. For example, Glenn Fitzgerald said, just found this amazing podcast and absolutely loving it. I remember years ago a local video rental shop closing down. I bought all their Terrahawks videos and they blatantly laughed at me. Well, who's got the last laugh now, eh? Keep up the great work, guys. And that's from Glenn. Justin Fisher says, I've caught up. What am I going to do now? Luckily, I've been saving First Action Bureau, so at least I have that. Brian B. Bunny, I hope that is his name, over on YouTube, posted, happy birthday to I'm Jamie Anderson.
Oh.
I've been enjoying the Gerry Anderson podcast and Fab Live since early 2019 when I discovered them, still enjoying them every day. I was on the chat of the first Fab Live, which was streaming on YouTube.
Oh, gosh, remember that?
Back in the midst of time.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. Simon Allen, who is over on Twitter as Bad Pun Guy, said, thank you, chaps, for another great podcast and a great slogan for a T-shirt for me. I've inspired Richard James, as it doesn't happen often. Now, here's a great one from YouTube. Brian says, this is regarding our Star Trek Fab Fact a couple of weeks ago. Belated happy birthday, Jamie, says Brian. And Shatner's wig sounds like a great name for an indie band. As for homages, I gave up trying to count them in Alan Moore and Kevin O'Neill's superlative The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen graphic novels. They're all over the place, sometimes hidden, sometimes blatantly obvious, to the point of one of the final episodes resembling an issue of TV21. Yeah. Eric says there was a more intentional tribute, I think, in Star Trek Enterprise episode First Flight. They were testing a warp drive prototype ship, the NX Alpha, and it looked just like a rocket with wings. I took one look and said to myself, please let that be launched off a ramp. And when its sister ship, the NX Beta, appeared, it was indeed launched off a ramp, just like Fireball XL5. I was so happy. And finally, William is taking you to task, Jamie.
Oh, dear.
What do you mean Star Trek isn't real? You mean it doesn't actually exist? You've completely destroyed my faith in reality. The next thing you'll be saying is that there isn't really an international organisation fighting aliens from another planet. We all know that one's real.
You're quite right. I would never suggest that wasn't real, because we see evidence of that every day. But apologies for smashing your dreams.
Yeah, so there we go. What a lovely bumper crop of communications we've had this week. It's always nice to hear from our listeners.
Yeah, I hope there'll be some left for next week.
Oh, we're doing one next week?
Yeah.
Oh.
That'll be Pod 144 next week, you see.
Okay, I'll have to make up some more. I mean, I'll have to see if we get any more messages.
Please email us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, otherwise we'll have nothing to say.
Yeah.
Oh, right, you lot go off and write emails. Richard, start making stuff up, and I'll going to have my pee now. All right.
Oh, charming.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Oh, that's better.
You all right?
Yeah, just nipped off there. And,
right.
Yeah, a lot more comfortable.
Well, how thanks for sharing that with us, Jamie.
Well, I feel like, 143 podcasts in, we've, got fairly intimate in a sort of audio way.
Yeah, it's true. We're all getting to know each other now, aren't we? We all know each other's foibles.
Exactly. What's your greatest foible, do you think?
My greatest foible is probably cutting my
Channel
hair
5 series.
just a bit too short.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. I went for it and, overdid it slightly.
To be fair, you've not cut it as short as mine. So
No, that's true.
There's still one more step.
Do you know what? It's saving me bags of time at the hairdryer every morning. It's saving me on hair product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you go, bald as well. There's all this time and money saved. It's, it's definitely the only upside.
Yeah, well, my ears are a bit cold. That's the downside.
Yes. Well, you wanted some sort of scarf for your ears. Is there such a thing?
A scarf for your ears, like an ear scarf.
Yeah. Has that been invented before? I think we've not. We should hurry down to the patent office immediately.
No, I think it has, and I think it's just called a scarf.
Oh. Okay, well, I better go back to the drawing board and see if I can come up with something else. Wish me luck.
With that.
Cheers.
All right, bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.